My point is just simply that the victimhood mentality, right? The embracing being a victim, the embracing being marginalized, the embracing being oppressed, okay? If we're all trying to be oppressed, we're all trying to embrace that narrative, life does not reward that. Welcome back to the Unyielding Podcast, episode 2. This is our first video podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about anything and everything from a Christian perspective. I'm your host, Mike Van Meter, and I'm joined by 4 of my friends, and we'll get to them in just a minute. I wanted to start by telling you guys a story that happened to me this week that I think you guys will appreciate. I took my kids and my wife out to dinner at Tacos El Gordo because we're downtown. They have a Tacos El Gordo downtown. Shout out Tacos El Gordo, best taco shop in San Diego. And it's a little complicated how you order from Tacos El Gordo, but I always try to practice my Spanish when I'm there, which is...
The menu's in English, though.
D-. Yeah, but all the people speak Spanish, and it's a lot of Spanish speakers that go there. So it's originally from Tijuana, so they speak Spanish. Anyways, I was practicing my Spanish, and I made a mistake somewhere along the way because I accidentally doubled my order. I think I ordered from 2 different guys, but when the guy was bringing me, he was like, you put your tray out, and he's putting tacos on the tray, and he's like, he could tell I didn't speak Spanish. It's like, for here or to go? I was like, yeah, for here. And he's like, it's a lot of food. I was like, yeah, I got a whole family. I got 6 kids and my wife upstairs. Like, oh, okay. And I just had flashbacks of the Golden City Peking duck situation that I was over-ordered and too much food. Anyways, it was great. It ended up costing me $100 at Tacos El Gordo. I plan on spending 40, but whatever. All right, we are coming back this week. This is our first video episode, which we're really excited about. Henceforth, our episodes will be coming out on video. They'll be on YouTube, and they'll be on all of our podcast areas, so you can pick them up from wherever. One of the things we want to just talk about is maybe give a little bit of perspective on why we're doing this, and maybe even some perspective on why we're not doing this podcast. And so basically our heart, our mind is that we want to challenge each other to live godly lives for Jesus. And we want to challenge you guys to live godly lives for Jesus, just unapologetically, faithfully to God, first and foremost, more than everything. We want to push Jesus and into every area of our life. We want to live fully, bring his lordship and his authority over every aspect of our life. And that's a really exciting challenge when you get into it. And so that's kind of the podcast is going to be kind of meandering conversations. We usually come with some idea of a topic to talk about, but we're just going to try to talk about from our life experience and our experience of following the Lord. Most of us for, over 20 years for the most part, and just see kind of, what comes of it. And the reason is because we've had these conversations for a long time. But so that's kind of my idea behind doing it. I know we have some other things. You guys want to add anything to that? As far as why are we doing this? What the point is?
No, I think you got it. That was great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're not necessarily. I'll speak for myself, but I'm not a podcast guy. I don't think any of us really are. I mean, Spence, he's got the look. He's a polished guy, radio voice, right?
Good looking guy.
I
don't know what a podcast guy is.
Well, someone that's like
that wants the podcast. That wants
someone that you expect that wants to be doing this for the sake of podcasting, for the sake of broadcasting.
Yes, I think podcast. I listen to podcasts, and I listen to podcasts. But
yeah, so I think that when you're talking about what are some reasons that we're not, or what are some reasons that we are doing this, and I think that it's just it's kind of time, and it's been time, I think, to speak the truth boldly and to kind of have a full kind of representation of the kingdom of God in all channels possible, because there's so much out there now that's pushing against it, and so much that is not true, that I just feel it's definitely time that whatever avenue we have, whatever channel we have to put out the truth of God's word, that we have a responsibility to do that. And I know that was always the case, but it just seems like things have kind of come together where we have this opportunity to do this podcast, and it's kind of taking what we have done for years in our conversations, Taco Tuesday nights, meeting up, talking about life, praying together, and kind of extending the reach of that. So
yeah, I think a couple things. I think that there's a lot of reasons not to do it, right? We're all busy. Who's going to watch it? Is it going to make an impact? Does it matter? So some of it is just in faith. Lord, we want to honor you, and hopefully this is something that can be useful to him. And I think there's some value just putting stuff out there and saying, Lord, do you want to use this in somebody's life? I think also, if we kind of had a target, I think in my mind, we want anybody who is interested in living for Jesus to be in there. But I think maybe particularly just kind of young guys, I think that our experience coming up together, encouraging each other, I think that if there's somebody who's going to find this podcast fruitful or encouraging, it's probably going to be young guys who are trying to figure out their lives and figure out, what's their next step, what's their next move in the world, that I think they're hopefully, it has some value. But I do think it's probably important to say, man, we're not experts in anything. We want you to test everything that we say and do against the word of God and against wise counsel, and that be an encouragement to you guys.
Yeah, I think to add to that, fleshing ideas out in front of people and showing that transparency of, hey, I think this, and here's what the word says, and then someone else bringing a different perspective on application in life, I think is very difficult for men to do with each other. And so modeling that for young men, I think is ultra important. The other aspect of it is sometimes it's hard to digest things. When you read a book, sometimes these books are very weighty and very heavy, very high up there in concepts. And so when you're able to break things down into digestible parts, especially for young men that are as well read as Mike or Bo or everybody else here,
we got the shout.
Yeah, you got the shout outs there.
And the other two.
Yeah, the other three, all of us. I think it's important to kind of break it down into digestible points for people to be able to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me personally, why I'm doing it, I'm just tired of not talking about it. I feel like, the Bible talks about live peaceably with all men as far as it's possible. And I try to do that. But then there's also something in the Bible about saying peace where there is no peace. I feel like I've been trying to keep the peace, and there's just so much around us that is actually showing us that it's a war, that it's not peacetime. And I think I just have to engage. I'm tired of letting it go on around me and not saying enough about it. Believing it is one thing, and having, close friends and family that believe, but there's a lot of people out there who are speaking, so ill of the things that we know are true and good that I'm tired of it, and I want to talk more about it.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun doing this, so I think this podcast is going to be fun, and that's one of the reasons I want to do it. And I think that is a good it's a good thing to put out in the world. Like we are trying to figure out how to be good Christian men, and we have fun doing that. And that if we can share that out, I think that could be edifying for others. You said like we're not experts. I'm kind of proud of that fact. I think we achieve a lot of effective wisdom on how to live in the world well, how to represent ourselves well as men and Christians, and we aren't experts. So I think that can be an encouragement to other people who, right now, there's a lot of deferring to some power or experience or expertise out there that knows better. I don't always know that that's the case.
Yeah, it's bonkers town out there. But speaking of fun, I thought for our second podcast, maybe we would jump off on the topic of race, which is obviously a fun one to talk about.
Light topic, yeah.
Yeah. So put your seatbelts on. If you're looking for a really polite conversation where we try not to hurt anybody's feelings or anything, you should turn the channel. That's not
Which channel?
That's not what I'm saying anymore.
There's no channel.
Yeah, I'm talking to the kids out there. You guys go ahead and turn the channel.
There's no channels.
So I wanted to talk about, because I think all of us would be in agreement that there's just kind of a crazy, what's been called wokeness, I think, currently, but it's all just kinds of worldliness and godlessness that's been going on in the culture that really it seems like culturally just has us in the grips right now. And it seems like wokeness kind of hinges on kind of three areas: race, gender, and sexuality. Those are kind of the hinge points or the attack points where wokeness is coming in.
You put climate in there?
Yeah, climate's probably a thing, but
that's not woke.
Well, I'm sure climate's woke. I'm sure it is, but
yeah, climate's woke.
I think it's woke.
It seems like, okay, fine, climate, the hinge points. We could maybe find some more too, but of those,
there we go.
Yeah, of those three, it seems like race, especially for Christians, is the one that maybe they stumble on the most. that seems like maybe the one that is the most kind of almost the gateway drug that opens the door for everything else. And I want to talk about why that is. And there was a hilarious clip, maybe not hilarious, maybe it's a sad clip on Twitter this week of a black woman getting arrested at Walmart for shoplifting. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but the woman just repeats over and over again. She's screaming, "Walmart is racist. Walmart is racist. Walmart is racist." And it's got all these people standing around and nobody's doing anything. So I thought it's just interesting that this woman is obviously, whatever. She's not a real upstanding citizen. She's not a real credible witness. But why is she yelling Walmart is racist? Like she thinks that she's picking up on something that she thinks that she's doing. She's being arrested for shoplifting, and her response to that is not, "I wasn't shoplifting." It's not, "Leave me alone." It's not, "This man is harassing me." It's, "Walmart is racist." And she's picking up on something that is obviously going on in the culture that seems like just in the last 10 years, man, things have gotten really bad. I think I actually looked up the Gallup poll numbers on this. I have it here. Gallup goes back a long time on race questions, but one of the questions they have is what is the white and black people, would you say relationships between white and black people are very good, somewhat bad, or very bad? So those are the 4 options, right? So this is the relationship between white people and black people. Among white people, in 2001, 6% of those surveyed said that the relationship between white people and black people is very bad. In 2021, it rose to 21%. Okay, so almost 4 times.
White respondents.
Among black respondents in 2001, 11% of people said that the relationship between white and blacks is very bad. And in 2021, 31% of black people surveyed said that the relationship between blacks and whites is very bad. And if we go even further, it says that on the question of for each of the following groups, please say whether you are satisfied, somewhat dissatisfied, or very dissatisfied with the way that you are treated, the way that people are treated. How about how black people are treated? Okay. So in 2001, 13% of white people said they're very dissatisfied with how black people are treated. And in 2020, it was 38%.
Whoa. And
among black people who were surveyed in 2001, it was 32% were very dissatisfied. And in 2021, over a 20-year period, 65% were very dissatisfied.
This is both very dissatisfied of how black people are treated?
Yes, right. Specifically black people in this culture. And this has all kinds of these. I'm just picking a couple because we could go through and look at all kinds of different survey data that just shows that people's view on how race is in America and the race relationships are at all-time lows. There's actually some of these surveys that go back to the 1960s and 1970s, and we are on par now with people's view on race relations that it was back during Jim Crow and during the Civil Rights Movement. It's really wild. What's interesting, though, if you compare that to the actual data, right? So if you look at incarceration rates among African Americans have been going down. They've been going down since 2007. So we're talking about mass incarceration being a major race issue, but it's actually been getting better for 15 years. If you look at the unemployment rate among African Americans, it's at an all-time low. If you look at the racial wealth gap, it's been closing for a long time between blacks and whites. If you look at how many black people are killed by police, the actual data says that black people are less likely to be killed by police than white people are to be killed by police in similar situations. There's a survey by the largest meta survey done by Roland Fryer. He's an economist for Harvard, and he got in a lot of trouble for that. But that's what the data shows. And yet, LeBron James tweeted out during the Ahmaud Arbery situation. He said, "We are literally talking about African Americans. We're literally hunted every day, every time we step outside the comfort of our own homes." Okay, so here is what is one of the largest, most influential professional athletes, and he's saying that African Americans are hunted every time they leave their house. Data doesn't back it up, but that is the sentiment that so many people have. So my question to you guys is, why are things, if by every metric racially things are improving, and we are light years ahead of where we were at the Civil Rights Movement, why is it that people have such a dim view of race relations and they think that they're getting worse?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it last time. It's everything right now is kind of a race to the bottom. if you are the most oppressed, the most victimized, the most, you have the most going wrong for you, somehow that means you are excelling the most, so you have the most opportunity. I mean, it's backwards, but I think that's one of them is, I think where you could see victory, in this, you can see opportunity, you can see something good coming from it. I think it's that's part of it. It's just a race to the bottom.
Let's talk about that for a second, because just that idea of victimhood, there's certain things we can choose in society and culture, and there's certain things we can't choose. Like, you can't decide that gravity doesn't work anymore, right? You can't decide you're going to jump off a cliff and you're going to fly. And it seems like the insanity of trying to race to the bottom or to embrace being a victim is such a terrible idea, because life, the world that God designed, will not reward you for being a victim. It will not.
It would. Right. It would. There were things in place that would reward blackness. There was affirmative action. So there were mechanisms in place that being black was a mechanism or a tool that you could use.
No, definitely.
Was it the right tool? Was it a good thing that contributed to this? Maybe
those things are in place now, but it's not. You're saying how it should.
No. Let me be clear what I'm saying. We can make all kinds of things like that. We can make affirmative action, but the end result with affirmative action is a worse outcome. Okay, so like if you just take affirmative action,
but you're saying, how did it get to where it's at?
No.
And that's in...
No, I'm not saying how do we get to where it's at. That's my question of why is this such a thing? Race is such a thing, and I think there's lots of answers. But my point is just simply that the victimhood mentality, right? The embracing being a victim, the embracing being marginalized, the embracing being oppressed, okay? If we're all trying to be oppressed, we're all trying to embrace that narrative, life does not reward that. Now, we can put in some false rewards. We can say, okay, well, if you've been oppressed, then you can go to Ivy League colleges, even if you don't have the grades, even if you don't have but what happens when you go to the Ivy League school? Do you know what the number, this data is hard to come by because it's really protected. Colleges don't want you to know it. But the data on students that are enrolled that are accepted because they have lower test scores, but based on race, do worse. They end up in the bottom 20% of their classes. Many of them don't end up graduating. Many of them end up filtering into these majors that are worse. And so then when you get out, you're actually, you could have been, let's say you end up going to Harvard. You're going to end up in the bottom 10% of the class at Harvard, or you could have been in the top 20% of your class at USC. And the question is, what would be better? Would it be better for you to graduate, have a degree from Harvard where you're at the bottom 10%, or a degree from USC where you're at the top 20%? But then you have to go get a job. And if you're incompetent, like, let's say we hire based on race preferences, right? You have to go get a job and you're not going to perform as well. And who suffers because of that? Everybody ends up suffering. The whole quality of the culture ends up going down because of this.
If I were an individual black person, though, and I had...
you are an individual black person.
But that's what I'm saying. If I'm thinking from that vantage point, and there's a way for me to go to Harvard because they need another black person, up until now where we're starting to figure out that there's these nestled outcomes that are systematically not good, I would have went to Harvard. I would
obviously.
So that you're saying, how do we get there?
No, I'm not even, again, set aside that, how do we get there? I'm saying that we've set up perverse incentives.
I agree.
And these perverse incentives don't end up helping us in the long run.
I agree.
And so what we're doing by embracing the victim mentality, there's a reason people are doing that, because it works for a minute, but then life comes at you and it doesn't work. That runs out real quick, and it might last. You might be able to ride on the backs of a generation or 2 generations or 3 generations or 4 generations. But at some point,
it's a broad brush for the victim mentality, though. I think that's pulling too many things into the victim mentality. That is a real issue. That's a part of the problem we're facing. But it's not all of what's creating the dynamic between black and white, or wherever these racial disparities are kind of blooming, even though all the data is saying we're advancing, where there's these blooming tensions. It's not just people wanting to be victims.
No, there's a whole lot more reasons. But let me just say, the whole wokeism idea is predicated on sort of this Marxist idea that the people on the bottom are the ones that are abused by the oppressors, okay? And that whole thinking that is informing, that's kind of the CRT idea of understanding all of life along these power dynamics. I'm saying, to the degree that we embrace those, we're going to embrace what the outcome has been in every country where it's been adopted, which is poverty, which is decline, which is brokenness. And I'm saying that that's where that stuff comes from. And I think that there's lots of other things going on. There's lots of other dynamics at work, but that one kind of permeates a lot of it, and it's not helpful. Like, we've had messed up race relations in the United States since our inception for 400 years. And I think that's one of the reasons why this is such a kind of a complicated, difficult issue to try to figure out. But I think that in ways that we're getting so much better, one of the things that is modern is happening. I think the African-American community in many ways is worse than they were in the 1940s and 50s than they are today. I think
worse
family-wise, worse outcomes, even wealth, that they ability to generate wealth and entrepreneurship and that kind of stuff. If you look at the data from the 1940s, it was really strong that the intact Black family had a mentality of, we're going to do it ourselves. We're not waiting for somebody to come rescue us. We're not waiting for somebody to come help us. And they were having really good outcomes. They were having really kind of amazing things that were happening. And there's lots of reasons that didn't work and that people came against them. But I don't think the whole rescue situation that I think send the federal government in to rescue the African-American community is going to work, has worked. I think it's actually been.
You opened with the question on like, why is this going on?
Yeah.
I think all of those things in part are true. I point to an individual Christian faith, individuals having a Christian faith and letting that form their ideas of race as the biggest element before the Marxists and the victimhood mentality and all of those things, which are contributors. I think you have, as individuals, move away from knowing how Christ wants them to view another person. That is the root of the problematic outcomes.
I think it's identity too. I think it's, if you ask me to rank, what do I identify as, at the top of the list would be something like Christian, husband, father, man, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think white would be on the list, whereas a lot of Black people would say Black, Christian, mother, right? Like it would be, if I wake up thinking, how am I going to be a Christian today? There are some people that wake up thinking, how am I going to, what does it look like to be Black today? And, that idea, like that is, and with that changing and shifting with the culture, I think that's where it's some of its identity. It's wanting to cling to something that's you, that makes you, that you're a part of, that makes you, part of a group that, it's that idea. So
there's something about importance there in the identity or rank that we are first of all created by God. We are creations of God made in His image. That has to, and when that isn't the first kind of principle that makes up our identity, something's going to go awry to some degree or another, right? Like that has to be first. And so I think that, like what Spence is saying, it's like that has to be first. And when it's not, all kinds of outcomes.
Put anything above it. But yeah, if we're talking about race right now, that's something above it.
I was going to go a different route with the reason why. And I could be wrong, but what I see is the definition of racism is changing.
Yeah,
that's and so the less, what I see is the less racism there is in America, the broader the definition of racism goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so growing up, there were clear white supremacists, and they were not afraid to flaunt that. And so that's what I identify as racism, when someone's in your face. Now you're subconsciously microaggression, and you have to be so focused.
You could not know you were being racist and be racist, which then what do you do from there?
Then you have to be informed about it and then feel guilty about something that I was never. And so that's the point. I think the definition of racism has broadened, and so now everything is racist. And the other aspect of it is
can we deal with that one? Let's just take it in pieces. Okay. So if we take that first thing, the identity thing, I think, is part of the solution. So we're going to obviously circle back to that, because I think that is an important part of it. But if we just think about the current, like when we started talking about race, right? One of the reasons it's kind of funny is because there's one Black guy, three white guys, and kind of a Hispanic dude, and kind of. And we were like,
Lisa?
hey, if we're gonna talk about race, like it's like, man, we all of a sudden want to be so careful because we're all trying to really like not step on a landmine, right? Like that's a product of the culture.
Sure.
That like, dude, everything is racist and anything can be taken to be racist. This is why this woman who's caught shoplifting is yelling Walmart is racist, right? Because she actually knows there's a con going on there. It's a lie, and it's a lie that everyone has started to believe. You got that book that we all read together, Live Not by Lies, right? Where the idea was at least don't repeat the lie, right? And the lie is that everything is racist. And there's so many people that are going around thinking, oh, my mom or dad who I grew up with, who loved me my whole life, or my friend who I've been friends with since I was little is racist because they don't buy into white privilege or whatever, right? And that is such a pernicious, divisive lie that is trying to separate people out. And the idea that we're going to expand the definition of racism to include everything, right? I mean, just almost everything. And this idea of if you're not anti-racist, then you are racist. You're part of the problem. If you don't consider yourself white, then you're part of the problem. You're racist for not considering white a major part of your identity. That is part of the whole lie that has like snuck in here and has kind of corrupted everything. And even this conversation, you almost can't even have any kind of honest conversation about race without somebody being offended.
Well, and the epitome of this craziness is, I don't know if you guys seen in the news, two woke people were murdered, and the people who murdered them, one was in New York and one was in like San Francisco, and they're obviously like white guilt advocates, and they were murdered, and the family members are saying if this person was alive, they wouldn't want him to be prosecuted. This person who murdered him, they wouldn't want him to be prosecuted because they were black.
Right.
The murderers were black, and so that's the epitome of where they almost see themselves as martyrs for a cause, where the crime can get so bad or there can be something and they don't want them prosecuted for some of this. And that's the epitome that we've got to. So it could be as little as shoplifting, it's racist, or I'm willing to lay down my life and die. It's wild.
Where we've gotten, where, I mean, growing up, it was the content of your character, not the color of your skin. That is such an amazing statement. Me saying that right now is racist.
Yeah, right.
If you say that today, that we should judge each other based on,
quote the Honorable Dr. King,
if we judge each other based on our character,
right,
not the color of our skin, racist. I mean, I'm white, so I have the disease. I have diseased blood of racism flowing through me. According to everyone, my whole life and thinking and everything is deeply racist. Right? I can't escape it. Whiteness is a disease, as far as
there's people who say stuff like that.
I know.
Which is so racist, right? But it's like,
but not today.
Yeah, right.
But even if we go away from the fact that we're telling everybody that's white that they're a disease, right? Okay, we can deal with that later. But going back to judging people on the content of their character, not the color of their skin, the fact that we've flipped it now, where hey, if you say like your story, someone murders someone else, clear. Oh, hold on, today he was black, they were white. Oh, that changes everything.
Right.
We're literally flipped it to now we judge people on the color of their skin, not the content of their character. It's so upside freaking down.
Yeah, it's left is right, right is left. It's if you need to know the color of a person before you must understand the details, and that's going to change your opinion on a murder. You're doing something deeply wrong. You're confused. Your mind is convoluted in a way that's just really harmful.
It's absurd, and the outcome is chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've embraced absurdity. Like you said, up is down, left is right is wrong. And when you embrace that across your society, you get chaos. And that's what we're seeing.
Which is what the Bible says. You call good evil and evil good, right? So certainly I think that's at work here. I think one of the things, though, and this is one of the things I think we would want to try to approach with this podcast is how do we improve that? Because the lie keeps getting told, and there's a lot of people who just are still just accepting what is kind of the soup du jour. Like there's just the beliefs of the day, the zeitgeist, right? They're just kind of accepting what they hear and what they believe, and okay, that must be true. And there's all this kind of stuff where it's just being reinforced, right? If you look at the news data on like how often, if a white person is killed by an African American, how often that makes the news versus how often a black person is killed. If a white person is killed by the cops versus when a black person is killed by the cops. One of the interesting things is you can go through and look at. I mean, there've been so many situations with the cops, right? Starting with Mike Brown and Eric, the guy from New York, Eric Garner. You could just go through and look at all these different police shootings, and there's actually almost a 1-for-1 example of a white person being killed by the police in almost the exact same circumstances, and you've never heard of those stories, right? Those stories fit a narrative that is being sold and being fed to people, and the reason is because it is a power dynamic that allows people to get power, okay? And it's typically people who have some political gain or some social credibility that they're trying to get, some ideology that they're advancing that is using race as this wedge issue to divide people. And so how do we bring that back? How does healing come into this? What does this look like? And I think this is where maybe we come back to the idea of identity and Christ. I think Douglas Wilson has a great quote. He says, basically, the choices are Christ or chaos. Those are the only two options. If God is real and if this is his world and we're his creation, then we belong to him. And anytime we don't submit ourselves to him and his authority and live cohesively according to his plan and according to his design, we're going to devolve into brokenness and chaos. And I think whatever we look for in secular answers is going to come up broke, because there just isn't the answer. And so how do we as Christians begin to shift the conversation on race, or begin to model something different in a way that is meaningful and can make a difference?
I think it's really difficult because even this question, how can we bring healing as Christians to a world that's broken with this concept of racism, or this broken idea of race? My answer to that 8 years ago, 10 years ago, my answer today is probably much different than my answer would have been 10 years ago. And that's not because I've changed dramatically, but I think, 10 years ago, my answer would probably be off the bat, well, prove to that person that you understand.
Right.
Get into their shoes, prove in some way that you understand the history of the United States, the roots of these things, the wounds, the legitimate actual wounds in our country's history, the impact of that. Find some way to say, hey, I get it. Where do we go from here, right?
Yeah, you understand Black Wall Street, you understand redlining, you understand all these oppressive things that have been perpetrated on, communities of color,
right?
Whatever, right.
Establish something through conversation, through relationship, where now you guys are standing instead of face to face in opposition. We're side by side. We both get it to some degree.
We understand the facts.
We understand, and now where do we go from here?
Right.
And I think ideally that is still, I think, what my approach would be. But I think because of where we're at now with race and the concept of race, you can't prove it. You can't prove that you get it, or that you can't have enough compassion.
Yeah, right.
It is impossible if you look a certain way, or your ideology is of a certain label, to have enough compassion. The best you can do is to be an ally. And what that means is to be quiet and to, without any kind of
critical thinking,
anything, to essentially just lay down, be quiet, and hope you don't get beat too bad.
Right.
But that's literally, that's your position now.
Right.
That's the only kind of road you have available if you're trying to go the pure compassion route.
Right.
And so what makes it really difficult is okay, well, where are we at now? There's a scripture, talking about throwing pearls to swine, that you throw these very valuable things to these pigs, and they just think you're throwing rocks at them, and they just turn and trample you, right? So at some point, it's like, can you have a nuanced enough, compassionate enough conversation in the current climate to actually have an effect? Or are we now at a place where it takes something else?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't have a great answer to what that is, but it's something like a conversation that we're having here.
I think you could still have those conversations, though.
I would hope,
just
yeah.
not with the activists.
Sure.
It depends on the people.
It depends on the person. If you have this like person that's on the front lines, militant, then you're not gonna get in all you can do is get in a shouting match with them.
Right.
But I think if you just if you have someone that kind of is in the middle, it's kind of squirmish, doesn't know which way to go, and he's kind of towing the line, you could just plainly have a conversation with him like, hey, that wasn't racism. He's just being a human being. You got to leave room for people to be a jerk once in a while and not interpret it as racism.
I would add something on top of that. I think it's going to be really challenging when somebody who is acting like an activist. And I don't know that you can articulate an argument for masses of people. So I don't know that you can post a statement somewhere on Twitter or I'm dating myself, Facebook, or any of the places where you would post a big statement to have lots of people interact with and think it's going to produce that result. I think one-to-one, there are ways to connect with an individual. And the other thing I would add is oftentimes it's not during when they're heightened about the racial issue. They need to be seeing how we think about the laws and the truth of God before you get to that point. So there's scriptures and verses that God puts there for us to understand. In Revelations, like 7:9, he talks about every tongue, every tribe is part of his kingdom. They need to be hearing that kind of stuff, not when we're having a George Floyd issue. In Proverbs, he talks about how he hates detestable scales. So there's concepts that are deeply important that people need to be saturated in. And when we can represent those to them in opportunity, not during the struggle, not when you're going to arm wrestle over if this last shooting was a racial shooting. Hey, whatever, you're heated. You've got the whole world putting energy into how that viewpoint can work. But if I develop a relationship with people, they trust who I am, that I can be authentic, and I share those concepts over time, and that's how I live my life, that I do think wins people over time. It's not winning people every day. You're going to see this big cohort of people that just snap and their mind change. But I think it produces a good work over time as we interact.
So there's a couple things there. One is making a distinction between the evangelist or the apostle and the refugee, right? The person who is totally promoting this kind of stuff and the person who is just kind of a bystander, just going with the flow, right? So one is maybe doing that. But I want to push back on something because I think there is a way. I think part of the solution is we need to stop playing by their rules. Like I need to stop being scared of you calling me a racist.
Yeah.
Because I think as long as we're kind of allowing them, like I think we just need to treat them. Tommy Barnett a long time ago said that you want your detractors to be like a barking dog at a speeding train, right? Like, dude, it just doesn't. It's like water off a duck's back. Doesn't hurt me. To whatever degree I can, socially exist. I agree. I want to get along with everybody. I'm going to tell the truth, and I don't care if you don't like it, and I don't care if you're going to call me racist, and I don't care. It's like that old adage of, what do you call someone who's winning an argument with a liberal, a racist, right? Like it's just at some point it becomes a pejorative that's used to try to control you and silence you and make you shut up.
If you're still hanging your head when someone says you're white and that's wrong, and you're a disease, and you're like, oh, I am a disease.
the droopy voice.
If you hear that every single day for the most ridiculous thing, I mean, you get over. I mean, I don't care. There's so many things that that are legitimate racism, and racism has lost all meaning now. And I'm racist just for sitting here white, which I actually don't think about on a daily basis. Me being white, I mean, that idea of like hanging your head still. I mean. You gotta stop.
And the opposite is true. And the opposite is true. If you are an ethnicity that's supposed to be oppressed and you believe that, that's also true. If you're a black person that thinks there's no way in this world for you to create success for yourself, for you to be diligent, hardworking, master a craft, and go out into the world and have that produce a good result, you're believing a racist lie. And God's word says, if you work diligently, your work will be in front of kids. Like there's both sides of this. If you're a white person who's just, woe is me, I can't do anything, I'm afflicted with this disease, that's wrong. If you're a black person that thinks you're continually oppressed and there's nothing you can do, that's also wrong. Like there's a lot of false truths that people have just ascribed into themselves that need to be uprooted.
And some of that is the thing about identity is if you wake up and say, how am I going to be white today? Wrong. If you wake up and say, how am I going to have a black day? Wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like those don't, now if there are beneficial things in your culture that you want to ascribe to, great. If they align with the Bible, great. But waking up saying, what's black today? Let me find out and go do that. That's not.
Or what shouldn't be white?
Yeah.
Like cultural,
Let's expand this out. What's Mexican today? That's wrong.
What's Asian?
What's Asian?
Yeah.
Those are from a Christian standpoint, that isn't the way you best honor Christ. And that's always gonna be divisive. It's gonna put you at odds with living most fully in the world and embracing a healthy, productive vision on how to move forward.
So I'll say, I think along the same lines is that not buying into the whole thing and not being worried about what you're going to say to me or about me, but then not only that, but not believing what they say about other people. When other people get accused of being racist, like a lot of times we just, oh man, I bet somewhere in there he was kind of racist. Dude, I don't buy it. Like I've seen so much mud slung and people accused. Somebody accused. There's a whole thing going on. There's another pastor here in San Diego, Robert Herbert. He pastors All People's Church, and he was accused by these people who they're trying to build a building in Del Cerro, and there's this organization that's trying to make sure they don't build it there. And they have been combing through all of his sermons and all his information. He actually gave a sermon at Foothills Young Adult Conference where he said that there was this girl that he met, and he said she looked like Jesus. And he said, I don't mean she physically looked like Jesus, like she had blonde hair, blue eyes, and was young, clearly not a Jew, but she was like Jesus in her personality. And they were like, boo, anti-Semite, like you're anti-Semitic. He's saying that she doesn't look like a first century Judean, which she clearly did not. And not only that, he's just saying she doesn't look like a man. It's so obviously not anti-Semitic, but they know that if they can call him anti-Semitic, that it'll make him toxic and maybe they'll get what they want for the land use. And so we have to stop believing what people are saying about the whole conversation. We need to reject that. And I think part of the other thing we need to be aware of is we don't buy into it and go the opposite direction. If we start making everything about race, and let's say you come at it from like a race realist perspective and you say, okay, let's look at the crime data on African Americans and white people and Hispanics, right? You don't want to have that conversation about race. And I don't want to go there either, because I think we have deep cultural problems, but African Americans have a murder rate that's 5 times the rate of white people. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, and that's mostly African American people being killed by other African American people. So we don't want to go try to get a tit for tat racial conversation. We, as Christians, we want to reject that whole thing. Like you were saying, it's not who we are. We are somebody else. Race is actually a fiction. We're all part of the human race. Like we all descend from Noah. We're all of yeah, I know. Yeah. We all descend from Noah. Yeah, we all descend from Noah. We're not some easily definable thing by the color of our skin or the pigment of our skin. That's crazy. You know what I mean? And it's never been understood that way. So I think we need to reject that whole thing. And I think we need to bring the gospel front and center on it. And so I think part of the answer, Bo, there's no easy solutions. I think in some way the way we move forward is we start living our lives free from your system that's trying to impose these definitions and these ideas on us. That's not us, man. We have a better way. We follow the way of the master. We're Christians. We believe in the gospel. We believe that Jesus is after, like you said from Revelation, every tribe, nation, and tongue. He wants people from every ethnos, right? And so that's who we're after. We're after bringing the gospel to bear on every single person from every single way. And God has put us here as ambassadors of Christ. And that's what we're doing here. I'm not trying to get involved in your race conversation, man.
Yeah, I think that's good to live without partiality. And that's toward any person, toward any identity or ethnicity or whatever the case is, that I'm not going to treat you worse because of some characteristic, because of your skin color. And also, you don't get to say absurd, untrue things because of your skin color, and I accept that.
Right.
So the scales are the scales. It's true or it isn't. It's good or it isn't.
your skin color does not factor into it. So live without partiality, and to do that on a daily basis. And I think, that's I think,
race used to be like, growing up, the neighborhood we lived in, Linda Vista, very diverse. I honestly didn't think so much about race for so long in my life, but we were surrounded by people from all different backgrounds. One of the best things, it used to be fun. It used to be, we had this multicultural fair or something, right? Every time at Kearney High School, everyone would bring different food, right? Vietnamese, Filipino, Hmong, African American, whatever. I don't think there was white food, right? We were already past that.
Cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburgers and milk. We were past that, but that was such a fun day because people wore, traditional dress. You got to eat lumpia and all sorts. It was great.
Yeah.
And it was like, what are the interesting things about your race? What's about your history? And yeah, there's some sad things. There's some good things. There's a lot of good things. Let's celebrate it.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. It was so much fun. And every day I didn't wake up going, what do my friends, am I, black, white, what does that mean for me? I just went to school. We just, it wasn't on my mind. And it was, hey, that guy's a jerk. Oh, what color? It doesn't matter. The guy is
right.
It's the content of his character. I mean, that idea, and I think that was such a blessing early in my life where it didn't come to a point where where we're at now, where it just it blows my mind that we're in a place. I mean, but I see the goodness of it in my kids, right? My wife's black, my kids are black and white. They think about race once every 2 to 3 months, maybe, right? Like, hair color, or, this is brown Barbie or whatever, right? Or,
right.
That actor, he's black and white too, like you guys, right? Like that kind of thing. It's kind of a fun, interesting thing. They don't wake up thinking, how am I gonna, and they're not looking out. They're not saying, how am I gonna be oppressed today? They're also not saying, what part of me is diseased and, all that. Like, it's in that I see it kind of like from the mouth of babes. Like, I see you should be aware and you should be able to stand with people and hear things. But like this idea that we've simplified things to an idiotic point where, what color is your skin? No, I don't want to hear about the character stuff.
Yeah.
And that's from the enemy, and that's a way to control people and simplify people. It flattens people, black, white, Mexican, right? Like, I don't want to hear anymore. Now we know everything we need to know about you. And obviously people are deeper than that. They should be. And we're trying to simplify them and flatten them in a way. And
I think that everything you're saying is right. And I think there's two things that come across over the last couple things we've been saying. One of the things your kids and I was, from my growing up, they are in close proximity to a mother and father of different race that love them. Part of the answer is getting in proximity to people that love you. And what, as a kid, I was able to experience was like, I was a kid just growing up and I saw a white person love me and would do anything for me. And I saw a black person. Right. And so not everybody can be interracial or mixed in that way. And, but the idea can be passed around is to love people authentically, starting with us as Christians, going out and loving people. And that has a working in them. The other thing, so I think that's something that we can do in our part. The other thing, though, it's heartbreaking in a way that we have to go past race because there are real racial issues to solve. Like, we in this group did this thing, We Need Life, to raise money to open a pregnancy care clinic to help specifically to help a part of San Diego that is mostly black and Mexican people that didn't have an alternative other than Planned Parenthood. We don't believe in that. That's wrong to us. We don't believe in abortion. So we wanted to proactively go make something, and that it was to help. And like you cited that the instances of murder in the black community are so high. That's heartbreaking. And it is a racial issue. And the concept of race, whatever, but I don't want black people murdering black people. So it doesn't even make sense not to try to address that racial issue. It's the conversation is so polluted and dominated by wokeness that we can't even get to actually helping. So in your thing of like, we do have to be a train and not worry about the barking dog, but it can't be agnostic of race at this point, because there are racially oriented problems that as Christians, as a Christian and as the Christian community, I think we do want to speak into and affect and alter. Like it's heartbreaking,
And that takes a lot of boldness.
It does take
boldness.
boldness.
It takes a lot of boldness.
And unequivocating. We can't be. I like the name of our podcast. I don't know how it got decided, but we can't be yielding on that. I do want to help save Black people's lives. I want Black people to be empowered to know the truth of God's word, that if they work hard, he makes a way for them. Don't worry about what LeBron James says. That's not the truth. The truth is when, so it isn't racially oriented how it's being set up, but it's not racial.
So let's close it there. We could obviously talk about this for a lot longer because there's so much involved in it, but I just want to bring it back to a couple things. I think, one of the things the Bible says is that God has made us to be light in the world, a city set on a hill, right? And the idea is that you're a traveler traveling along a dark road and you see out in the distance a big city lit up that you want to say, man, if I can get there, if I can get inside the walls of that city, I'll be safe, right? It's dangerous to be out on the road. There's wild animals and there's robbers and there's all kinds of stuff, but if I can get in the city, I'll be safe. And I think us living our lives in a way where, man, we're modeling the kind of biblical racial harmony that we see in the scriptures. We're loving each other. We're serving each other. At one point in our home group, I think we had 10 of our 12 marriages in like a 3-year span were interracial marriages, but I thought it was cool. I was kind of bummed I married a white woman. But the
Hannah's
idea,
gonna listen.
Hannah, you're great. We love you, Hannah.
Turned out pretty good. That the point or the idea is that, man, we want to model what that looks like from a Christian perspective and something beautiful and something good and something that we're after. And I think that's the picture we want them to get to. Thank you guys for joining us on Unyielding Podcast. We'll be back next time with episode number 3, and we look forward to seeing you again.